It's 18 minutes past 4. Hey, how you doing? Miss M with you this afternoon on 100.7 Highlands FM. From her album Back to Black, that's Amy Winehouse and Tears Dry Up on Their Own. She's one of my feature artists this afternoon on Experience the Divine with me, the Divine Miss M. And I'm very lucky this afternoon. I have the pleasure of talking to Wynne Alexander again. Wynne has an impressive career as a journalist, author, composer, civil rights activist and international recording artist. She has recently been acknowledged and resolved by the Council of the City of Philadelphia. Moreover, she has been recognised and commended on the accomplishment of her groundbreaking new book, Get It From the Drums. Wynne, welcome to the program.
Miss M, it is an absolute pleasure to be speaking with you again.
Great. The pleasure's all mine. Now, firstly, let's talk about the US election. Obama won, McCain lost. Now, many of the Republicans have been pointing the finger at Sarah Palin. Do you think this so-called hockey mum, who was out of touch with the modern woman, many of whom now want to be seen as an urban princess who live in a big mansion, do you think she was out of touch?
Well, Sarah Palin is, of course, she's out of touch. But worse than that, I think the chauvinism and the paternalism and the sexism of McCain is what really came shining through. In other words, Sarah Palin may be an idiot, but the person who recommends her to you is an even bigger idiot and is not your friend. And the kind of moron, old-fashioned guy that would hold Sarah Palin up to you and to me and to real women and say, and look, she's a role model. I mean, it's like holding up a bar and saying she talks. The doll is moot. And we're looking at each other thinking, is this guy crazy? And that was the message, really, that went out through America, and I think just sent chills, not only through women's phones, but look at all of the men who could not believe that this imbecile would be one heartbeat away from the presidency of the United States. But I will say this, too. The Republicans have a habit of doing this. Ronald Reagan was one of the biggest airheads to ever hold the presidency. I don't care if he's a nice guy or not. The guy was an airhead. Dan Quayle then outdid Reagan, being an even bigger airhead. I believe they were priming us for King George Bush II, who then became the biggest airhead ever. And then they would outdo themselves again with Sarah Palin, the female equivalent of the biggest airhead ever.
But it's interesting you say that, because I saw on the television a lot of American women saying, who wanted to vote for Hillary, if Hillary Clinton had have been, you know, had the primary colours and you know, she ended up being voted out by, you know, Obama. Obama was chosen, she wasn't chosen. A lot of women who wanted to vote for Hillary Clinton as the next president said, oh, well, I'm going to go vote for Sarah Palin. I saw a lot of that on television, so can you explain that to me?
I think that what they did was they found, you know, all 10 women across the country, and they put them on TV 100 times. Because what you see at the polls was this resounding renunciation of this incredibly stupid choice. Now, yet and still, McCain, look, he got 10 votes nationwide, amazes me. Of course, there are people who consider themselves staunch Republicans, and they'll do a my party, right or wrong thing, which is how Bush got, well, even though he stole the two elections, that's how he got the votes that he got. People have got to grow up and realize that a party label or a party hat may be inappropriate at different times of the day or of your life. And you have to vote the issue. You have to vote the man or the woman. You have to vote the essence, not some incredibly shallow labeling.
Okay, now, my first question was about Sarah Palin. My second one is about John McCain. Now, I'm interested to know your thoughts on this. He tried to relate to the general population, especially the workers, through this Joe the Plumber. Do you think this was also too much of a gamble, since most men, whether they are tradesmen or a doctor or lawyer, now want to see themselves as a professional?
Well, at the time that the Joe the Plumber thing took off, right prior to that, Republican pundits or Republican-leaning columnists who are then used on television, and often Republican strategists who are not labeled on television. In other words, they're being paid by Republican candidates or by the party, and they don't label that on American television for you. But they were saying that at that moment, the McCain camp was in disarray, that they were not on point, that their message was weak. Joe the Plumber comes at the end of an incredibly poorly run campaign. It was a desperate attempt. It also smacks to me of luck. I think that they seized up on a thing and decided they were geniuses, when in fact it was just one more airheady move, non-issue pretense at an issue. First of all, plumbers are very well paid in this country.
Oh, absolutely.
You've got this you've got this dichotomy where it sounds like a menial job.
Yeah.
But plumbers make a lot of money.
Oh, they're well paid here too, yeah.
Yeah, so what are we talking about anyway? I think it also played into the McCain attempt, and this is really egregious, what I'm about to describe. And it's along the same horribly cynical, destroy your country at any cost so you can get elected line of strategy. They tried desperately to villainize Obama by painting him as an elitist. They did this because he was well educated. Can you imagine somebody doing that to Teddy Roosevelt, who was a Republican, who was a real maverick, and who was very well educated? So because Obama has an extraordinary education and an extraordinary brain to match, because a lot of people can go to fancy schools and still be stupid. Because he was a great, great guy, they tried to paint him as an elitist. And Joe the Plumber went along with that game plan as well.
Well, what about the time when, we'll talk about Obama in a minute, just getting back to McCain, what about how the embarrassing gaffe when he was at a campaign and saying, Joe the Plumber, he's here. Oh, he's not here. Oh, well, you're all Joe the Plumber. You all stand up. What do you think of that?
Listen, the mistakes that that guy made, do you know that I saw with my own eyes? He was at a press conference and he said, he was making some grand point, and he always had this line about, my friends, my friends. And he stood up there and he said, my fellow prisoners. And I thought, well, he finally told the truth. We are prisoners. And we're trying to escape the clutches of his party now.
That's an interesting